Hey guys, Jorge Pelayo, Affirmation Series, Part 3 here. I said I would get through all these affirmations, so I want to give you the next set of 10. Number 1, what you're seeking is seeking you. Such a funny story about this. The other day I'm imagining, before I go to bed, I'm like, man, playing the what if game. What if this happens? What would you do? What's next, right? And I'm processing. I'm like, okay, when you get to 20 million in savings and assets, like, what are you going to do with the money? And I'm like, man, I really got to invest in some long-term commodities. And we interviewed Robert Kiyosaki one time through PHP Agency, a webinar we had. And I got a chance to host him, super grateful. And so I asked him a question. I said, hey, what investments do you make? And he says, I don't just buy stocks or mutual funds. I buy companies. And I'm like, and then he talked about buying a gold mine. So I'm like, that story came to my brain. And I'm like, okay, gold mine, man, maybe I got to buy a gold mine. Maybe I don't know that much. I'm going to call Robert. I'm going to see if I can get his contact through Pat, like figure this thing out, send him a message. And so my brain goes there. I'm like, maybe I should, buy like an oil field or something. And I'm just playing this game of like, what if? The next day, 2 days later, my father-in-law calls me. He says, hey, I know you were talking about you may potentially do something in politics at one point, maybe not, but I want to introduce you to a friend who kind of went down that road, explored it, and I think he could be a great asset for you. Just, meet him. I said, okay, cool, I'd love to meet him. So we get on a call, nice man named Tony, and he says, George, 2 of my family members were president, my family lineage, presidents of Mexico before. My dad was a governor, my mom was a mayor, friends with Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, other people. And he says, I chose this industry, went into the military, then CIA, then I got into oil, and I own 250 oil rigs now, and he's talking about this. And I thought it was so interesting. He's like, if you're considering this, I'd love to meet you, give you advice. 50-year-old man, successful financially, couple kids in a Christian college, just a strong dude, married 20 plus years. And I'm like, man, I'd love to meet you. I'm in the business at this season of my life of collecting great relationships. And I should have done that sooner. I was chasing sales, building a business, and I still am, we still are. But I need to add those positive associations, those positive identities to my life. And so I thought what was funny about it is that I had just said that I told my guys on Monday about the concept and the dream that I had, the imagination on Saturday, and then on Tuesday, this conversation happens, right? So what you're seeking is seeking you, and that's powerful. Next one, if we do not control and create our environment, then our environment controls and creates us. It's our job to create the environment we want. Most of us have an environment, there's parts of our environment that we don't like, and that's normal, everybody has that. I think part of what I've done over my lifetime is create a better environment that puts me in the right stage, mentality, spiritually, physically, creating the right environment around us, meaning who's around you, because it's not just environment like what building are you in, but what's in your office, what do you listen to, what do you hear, who are you around, who do you have lunch with, who do you train with, who supports you, who consults you, who's a friend, who can you go a process with. Create an environment that supports you. Create an environment that helps you operate at that elite status, that peak status, that you're making progress. And there's a lot of people that are ahead of me in a lot of different ways. I don't compare to those people. I look at those people as inspiration of what I can do, what I can become, how I can grow, how I can get better, and eventually do those things myself in my own way. But that environment makes you want to get better. So choose the environment that you want or create the environment that you want. Next one, number 3, input determines outlook. So what you put in here determines how you see the world. Your outlook determines your output. How you see the world determines what you do, what you don't do, how much action you take or don't take. And your output determines your outcome. So meaning that your input determines your outcome. So it's so important to put the right information here that gets you fired up to go get better and chase whatever it is that you're trying to pursue. Number 4, if you give up on your dreams, what is left? Sometimes we don't process that. We're like in the middle of chasing it, but you got to really ask yourself that question. Like, man, these are my goals. These are my dreams. If I give up on those massive goals and dreams, what do I have? I have the now. And that's not the dream. And so for me, I have to remind myself, man, never give up on these goals and dreams that you have. Keep chasing them. Keep chasing them. And you know what happens when you hit a goal? You before you hit it, okay, you constantly have to be recreating the next one so that you don't plateau. The other part about hitting a goal is that you have to keep recreating yourself so that you don't hit the goal and plateau because you didn't recreate the identity that set that initial goal. And so if you want to keep growing, right, keep setting goals, keep growing, and that's how you avoid plateaus. Part of the way you avoid plateaus. Next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stress doesn't come from the work. Stress comes from not taking action over something you have control over. You know, that internal anxiety, that internal frustration, that internal battle, like, man, I should have done that. I should have done this. I can do this. I should do this. I know better. You know, man, I really want to. I know that's what it's going to take. That's where the stress comes. When you've given everything you got, you're not stressed out. When you're giving everything you got, you're actually even more easygoing because you're like, you know, man, I'm giving everything I got. So, you know, can I get better? Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you found a leak? Man, thank you, by the way. You're not versus like, man, I feel upset that this person called me out on this. No, thank you so much, man, that you called me out on it. I'm giving everything I got. So if you can see something that I can do better, man, I want to get better, right? There's no fear. There's no anxiety. There's no intimidation when you're giving everything you got. But if you're not giving everything you got, you know that there's that stress, that anxiety, that fear, that worry, that doubt, right? And that's I've lived with both. That's so tough to live with. I never want to go back to that. I will never go back to that because now I know the truth. Control what you have control over. Next one, prosper where you're planted and God will give you an upgrade, right? A lot of these affirmations, that one I got from Bruno Castillo, prosper where you're planted and God will give you an upgrade, meaning become the very best at what you do, where you are, bless everybody, be the best leader, be the most positive person in your environment, out-develop, you know, initiate, create, become the very best. Pat sent me a message the other day. He sent it to a group of us, and he says, when you become that person, somebody is looking to lift you up. Behind closed doors, somebody is looking for that version of you, and they will find you. The right people will find you. And I'm like, man, that's so inspiring because, you know, I was waiting for somebody to find me when I was in the restaurant industry and I was 18 years old. And I'm like, man, I know I could do more. You know, I was waiting for somebody to find me, and I ended up getting attracted into the life insurance industry and meeting Patrick Bet-David. And man, that changed my life. You know, do the right things and somebody's going to find you. You know, I met my wife through the business, right? Today, our sons, man, my life is so blessed, but do the right things and somebody will find you. Okay, so prosper where you're planted and God will give you an upgrade. Next one, this place is a dream. Only a sleeper considers it real. Then death comes like dawn and you wake up laughing at what you thought was your grief. That is a profound, there's so many different ways to take that, okay? This place is a dream. A lot of the things that we think, it's not the reality. It's just a concept of it, how you see it based on how you were raised, right? And the way your outlook looks at the world. Only a sleeper considers it real, meaning that sometimes we think that these things are definite, your situation is definite, that you can never get out of it. It's never going to change. You don't believe that something is possible. You don't understand that there's a spiritual component to who you are. You don't understand that there's a bigger picture of what's going on. You know, you're a wave in the ocean, right? There's a bigger picture of what's going on in the world. There's a spiritual part of all of us. God has something that's for you, like a calling in your life, a gift that He's given to you. And so we're too logical sometimes, especially myself. Then death comes like dawn. So you die, you know, and towards the end of your life, all these things that you thought were important, what was really important, right? And you wake up laughing at what you thought was your grief, meaning that you have perspective of the situations that you thought were challenging and difficult, how those things actually helped you, informed you, and changed your life. But sometimes it's so hard to see that when you're in the middle of that battle. It's only when you get out of it, right? When that situation ends. It doesn't have to be the death of life. It could be the death of that situation. Then you look back on it and you're like, man, in that moment I was so confused. I thought that was going to be forever. I thought I was going to struggle forever. I thought this was never going to change. And then you realize, like, damn, I'm so grateful that I just believed it was going to get better because it did, right? So there's so many ways you could take that, but I love that one. As philosopher Bertrand Russell noted, a generation that cannot endure boredom will be a generation of little men, of men unduly divorced from the slow process of nature, of men in whom every vital impulse slowly withers as though they were cut flowers in a vase. That for me is profound, because sometimes we want something to just go. We just want it to now. I want it now. I want it to blow up now. I want to win now. I want it right now. I want to hurry that up now. And you just understand that this process of nature, like to build a tree, right, that produces fruit, to build a forest for something to happen, like nature, like, evolution, like nature, like it's thousands of years, it's millions of years, the process of nature. It's 100, 200, 300-year-old tree, this process of nature. Planting now and 3, 4, 5 months later getting the harvest, like that process, and then next year that harvest being bigger, and then next year that tree being stronger. Like the process of nature, sometimes we're impatient with the process. And there's a great quote that says, don't judge the day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds you plant, right? So be patient with the process. Next one, it takes courage to grow up and turn out to be who you really are. To see who you really are, Jordan Peterson says it takes humility for you to become the next version of yourself, because you have to see what's wrong with you, where you are making errors. There's a lot of fear and insecurity of what other people are going to think of me. And you know what, maybe that person's not going to agree with what I have to say. Maybe that person has a different opinion. Maybe that person wants something different from my life. Had a conversation with a great friend who said, man, I really want to go make movies, but I was studying pre-med, because that's kind of what my family wanted for me. That whole process of being able to say, man, this is what I really want. This is who I really am. This is how I really think. And you may be wrong, you may fail, right? But it's your choice. And if it's really something that you're passionate about, then there is no such thing as failure. There's only growth, right? And then you get better and you get better and you get better and you get better. And then maybe that person sees it. Maybe they don't get a chance to see it, but you finally make that dream come true, right? Because you chose to become who you are. And lastly, in moments of misery, make magic. I don't remember if that was a friend or a book. I wish I could give credit. I love giving credit when I got to make a note of who said that to me. But they said only in a moment. Oh, it was Tim. He said only in a moment of misery can you create magic. Because if things are good all the time, it's not magical. But when you could take something and transform it, that's powerful. And so guys, those were actually, we're on the series of affirmations, right? But those were actually the affirmations I read this morning. I believe it's healthy to have a ritual. So my ritual is wake up in the morning, pray to God, then 10 things I'm grateful for, then 10 affirmations, then some good music to wake up my soul. And then I check my phone, then I check my email, then I respond, then I see the world, because I got to get myself right first. That's the power of affirmations. And when you keep affirming something, you eventually become it. So make sure you affirm the right things in your life. We'll see you on the next one.